I'm Brent Leary.
I'm Paul Greenberg.
We are the CRM Players. It is Thursday afternoon, and quite honestly, it's a beautiful Thursday afternoon here in Atlanta. About
Mm,
69 degrees here, sunny.
Here it's not that much and not that sunny.
Well, our sparkling personalities will bring the sunshine to the rest of the whoever's listening. I don't know who it is, but because we've been bringing the ass since 2009.
Are we
Imagine
gonna
that.
have to pay Austin royalties for this, for using that?
Yeah, only if you know which Austin it is, because I certainly don't know which Austin it is. So.
I'm hoping I can guess where he lives.
Arizona? No.
No,
Vegas?
no, Texas.
Texas. There's Austin, Texas, but there's McTagus, Texas too, because
That's right.
he's the king of McAllen, Texas, says Tagus, our buddy from Zoho. And look, our moment is in has arrived.
Ooh,
This looks Turkish or something.
yeah, I think you're actually right. I think
Not
that's
that I know what
exactly what
Turkish
it is.
is, but
I'm going with you on that one. I'll say Turkish.
Turvehedis Rakat, whatever.
The only other possible one I would guess, and I'm sticking with Turkish, would be Aramaic. But I'm going with Turkish, like you on this one.
Okay,
Absolutely.
so we're both in agreement. We're going either we're getting it together or we're going down the Niagara Falls there together.
That's right. In a barrel.
So, Sven, let us know what the correct answer was, and I just appreciate it not being very long, and not, because he got those paragraph things going for a while there. Oh, we were wrong.
Finish. Wow.
Finish.
Way off.
Man, weren't even close.
No. I'm blaming you for that.
It
You
took.
threw me. In the interest of solidarity, I went with you.
Yeah, he did it.
And I've never
In
been
the
this far off yet
in the
until
interest of
today.
solidarity, it's your
Yeah,
fault.
that's right. Exactly.
I'll take one for the team. It is what it is. And it is Thursday. And, it's been an interesting week so far.
Pretty good. I can't say it's been exceptionally interesting, but it's
I,
I know you're very interested
I'm
in
not.
one thing in particular. Spend 40 minutes on a happy hour with it.
so, well, since you talked about it, it was an exceptional happy hour from what I remember. But of course, only remember about half of it. You want to talk about what happened on whatever you call it, happy hour? Because I
No,
don't know.
might as well not because it's basically with you concentrating on one thing for 40,
Well, yeah,
45
but
minutes.
I thought you guys were talking about something interesting. I just don't exactly know what it was, but
Nah, this is not what this is one of those happy hours where I was ranting about Capital One, right? I mean, I just was I think I was just in a testy mood yesterday,
ooh,
right? Right. I literally was ranting about things. Basically, Capital One was my
oh,
biggest rant, and there's no
that's
point
right.
in repeating that. I'm trying to be today. I thought about this last night. The better person and not fall into oh, he's 74, he's turning curmudgeonly, right? He's turning not forget curmudgeonly. That's a nice word for it.
No, you're
He's turning
you're venerable,
cranky, turning cranky. Right.
cranky.
So yeah, that's I was pretty cranky yesterday. That's what I would
Well,
say.
you were a bit triggered by when I think the trigger was when I mentioned I literally just got this email
Yeah.
from Discover,
Yeah.
and the subject line was something to the effect of
A kind
a kind something, a kind notice,
notice. That was it.
a kind notice.
Brent.
And it had my full name in it, which nobody ever uses my full name. So immediately you're suspect. And then a kind notice in front of that,
I know.
suspect went to guilty.
Yeah,
Okay.
right. It's like a kind notice. We've just bought up Discover to become the world's largest credit card company, and now we can screw you, and you can't do a thing about it.
Yeah, you kind of took it and ran from that
Well,
point.
I ran with. Well, that's interesting.
Now I suppose I'm trying to go this. Wait a minute, why did I go this way?
I have no idea.
There's
Maybe we
like
can.
nothing. Oh, wait a minute. Should I go
Well,
this way?
right now I just see me
There I go.
again. There you go.
Nah, I'm playing around with the Mix Effect Pro.
Oh, you actually do it. You're trying to use that thing to do what they do.
I actually do. I do use it from time to time, but
It's good. No, it's very good. It's just it's there's a lot to it.
No, I just made a mistake and set my cameras wrong. So I went actually okay. So I'm gonna do this. Bam, it's gonna go black. Oh, it didn't go black. Oh, okay. I don't know why it didn't go black.
Nope.
And then box 2 should be camera 1. There it is. That's what I was. I was. No, it did it. Now I got to switch back. If it'll let me switch back, there we go. Now I want to go to this. To this. All right, now that's great. Yeah, I hate that you have to keep setting this sucker up. Why can't it just stay with what I got? I hate every time I turn it on. I got to do this nonsense.
I thought if you had the Pro version, you could save everything.
There's only one. It's Mix Effect Pro. I don't. It doesn't seem to be saving for me. It's a paid app, though. I don't want to make it sound like
no. It's a great app, but I think there's a paid version of it.
I know. I'm using the paid version.
Yeah, so
like
I don't know. Yeah, that's exactly it. And I thought there was a save thing in there.
No, I haven't found the save thing yet. Maybe I got to keep digging or something. Anyway, it is a good app. I don't want to. I don't want to take away from.
Well, that's like this big trend lately. I think I also sent you that thing earlier today about the YOLO Box Ultra, and now it's got multicam, right? Multicam instant replay, right? With it, yeah, that's what I mean. I mean multicam, and then Photo Joseph and Alex Pettit and these guys who are big on ATEM mini, switchers are talking about multicam, and multicam seems to be the more advanced content creator trend and control of multicam, especially. So the Mix Effect Pro, the what do you call it, the YOLO Box Ultra, etc., are all pushing multicam something, so
it's all coming together. As long as you can show me how to save my defaults and all that. Anyway, so yeah, no, I thought it was a really good. Actually, one of the things that came out of yesterday's happy hour is the discussion that we're probably going to have in about 20 minutes or so.
Yeah, it's kind of why I was avoiding saying it, because we literally will take away the show, and that's not a good idea.
Hey, now this is somebody I always like hearing from.
Larry.
A fellow Rams fan. It's so few and far between that I actually get to, see something like that. But yes.
Hey, dude, we miss you on the happy hour. Come on back.
He's too busy working or something.
Forget work. It's not that important relative to the happy hour. Come on.
He's selling that like AI kind of stuff or something like that. Yeah. Wow. I've never seen you do that one before. Is that a poof kind of thing?
That's the cranky level number 1 as opposed to 8, which is where I was yesterday.
Wow.
Oh, I can dial it to 11. I've never been there though.
All right. So yeah, wow. Wait a minute. What did I load?
I have no idea.
I think I got the wrong thing.
Stumped a grandmother.
I don't think I got the right stuff. I'm looking because I don't want you to see. Oh no, I guess that's right. All right, I got the right one. It's weird. All right. So anyway, yeah, we have I don't know, can we even call him a guest? I mean, it's not like he's somebody who doesn't know.
He's part of the crew, man. He's a player in residence.
He is a player in residence.
EIR.
So we need to rejigger that program out of the way.
Yeah, I've got a whole thing to talk to you about with that.
So
it's PIR on steroids.
We'll bring them on, after we do the most important part of the show. We have to do that.
Oh, what's that? The ending?
Actually, he's actually a part of that too. So this is almost sort of is his whole. He's on here almost as much as we are for the most part. You hear that voice, that the golden smog voice.
That's right.
And he's even upped his audio in video.
Think of it this way: we're at the point with him that, other than mentioning his name, it doesn't need an introduction.
We are okay.
Think of how he's that frequent a guest, and he's not really even a guest. He's part of the team.
We got a team. That's actually kind of cool.
he's an important part of it too, because I think there are certain things that he knows that you and I would be completely, well, at least I'll speak for myself. I would be completely lost without his guidance.
I vouch for that. I vouch for that. But you know who else is part of the team?
Well, I
Uh,
do, but I can name them too. But
no, there's a lot of shows on PPN now. One of those shows was Whispered Insights
ooh,
with the erasable. No,
irascible.
The erasable.
Wow,
Mikulski.
that's fantastic.
Yeah, that I don't think he would like that one.
Oh my God,
They,
the
we'll,
erasable.
we'll stick with irascible.
The erasable. That's even
The
better.
irascible.
I'm going to use that.
Guess what? It was not only was it the irascible Esteban Kolsky on the latest episode of Whispered Insights, he was joined by the Brohammer.
And as we know, the irascible EK was also, and very few people know this, a member of the bullpen group.
Oh yeah, well yeah, I should have cued that picture, but yeah, we had a memory flash up on Facebook of something most people don't even remember and probably shouldn't remember.
And in fact, I'd say most of the members of it don't remember.
But I have a little clip from the latest Whispered Insights featuring the irascible one and the Brohammer. Check this quick clip out.
Smart vendors, they really engage in very open discussions between their executives and analysts, and those discussions can get pretty heated sometimes, and it's really interesting. But it makes everyone smarter, right? And it's not like all the analysts agree with each other either. I mean, people disagree about topics on how we go forward. They even disagree on how effective AI is in certain scenarios. Let's have those debates. Those are highly beneficial, and the more we can have those, the better.
Do you think that most, we'll just stick in our space, do you think that most of the AR departments in these tech companies, they are afraid to let us speak like one-on-one, very casual with the executives in their company for fear of, I don't know what the fear is, but do you think there's a number of companies that just don't like us talking directly with their executives for fear of something happening?
50-50 on that. So here's the answer is yes and no. And the reason I say that is this. On the one hand, over time, all of us as analysts get to know a lot of executives personally, as well as, professionally, and they become our friends and so on and so forth. And, we have conversations with them about whatever, families, things they, restaurants they like, whatever. But on the other hand, one of the charters of all analyst relations groups, especially the bigger companies, is they AR people are held accountable, and meaning their jobs they're held accountable for their interaction and the relationships with those analysts. So there are companies who I won't name here, but historically, on the one hand, have tried to control the message to the point that they don't want that to happen. But on the other hand, where it gets tricky is, as analysts, look, the AR people are accountable for us. As analysts, it's really almost discourteous if we want to set up a meeting with, say, these executives to talk to them directly. You can't really go around the AR person because you're actually setting them up for potentially losing their job if things get out of hand in any way, shape, or form, because they are wondering why do people go around them when it hurts them. It hurts them, and it hurts their reviews and it's not, so it's tricky. On the one hand, I do think some companies are hyper controlling about the message and don't want analysts to just have that one-on-one chat. Although, how many times do we go to, let's say, a reception the night before the conference, and there are lots of analysts at the reception, and there are lots of executives at the reception, and they're shooting the breeze, and nobody's in their way, and there's no AR people standing around. The only thing AR people might be doing is bringing individual analysts to individuals they want them to meet. So do I fully buy into what Brohammer said? Yes, I do, but on the other hand, no, I don't, because there's also I'll call it a courtesy and protocol that because these are the AR people are our friends, also we have to respect too. So it's that's why I say it's pretty nuanced, and at least if you're doing that. Now that said, there are a lot of analysts who just go straight to the execs, and ignore the AR people, which I think is wrong.
Yeah, you shouldn't do that.
No. So they have meat. What do you think?
No, I think there are some companies that I don't know. Is it companies or individuals at the companies, depending on who they are and like what their role is? I think they I don't know, or maybe it's a control thing. They want to be able to kind of control the conversation. Yeah, there's some of that. I'm not going to name names.
Yeah, I can think of at least two.
But I think one caveat to that is, and maybe it's because you and I have been around for a number of years, and we know a lot of people at these companies. There's a certain comfort level that I think we built, and because of that, they're more open for us to be able to do certain things that maybe not everybody else has the opportunity to do. So I think there's a lot of that too.
You know what? I'm having lunch with 4 analysts tomorrow, actually, here. They're local lunch. All we're at Zoho Day, which is a very good example of somebody who doesn't try to control anything, right, when it comes to that. And I'm going to ask them the question at lunch, see what they think. I'm really curious now, because these are only one of the analysts who we all know are another player in residence, Rebecca Wetterman, of course, who will be one of the hosts on the show, The Crunch, coming in March. Rebecca is going to be at the lunch, and then 3 other analysts are going to be there too. So I'm going to ask them that question tomorrow. Oh, by the way, before we get to my favorite thing in the world to do ever, which is end the show. I do have. I want to talk about briefly our guest on EWPK coming up. I don't have all the details yet, but it's a leader on the practitioner side in the space industry. Her name is Chantel Baer. The Falcon missions for NASA were the missions that explored the moon, Mars, and beyond. She's responsible for the payloads on the Falcon 9, things like that. And she's going to be our guest. More details coming, but she'll be our guest on Wednesday. I think that's the 28th? Wednesday, February 28th at 7 p.m. Eastern time. Really going to be fascinating. We're going to be talking about space, moon, Mars, her life, her history, and her how she got there too. And it's going to be pretty amazing. Cool. I can't tell you much about the Talking Headless episode yet. I'm still finalizing some details. But you'll still see a change in format slightly.
Okay, well, whenever you lose your head, you can.
Oh, that's every day of every minute of every day.
All right, so you kind of, well, maybe I did too. I kind of mentioned that I was a bit distracted at yesterday's happy hour. There was something going on that's, hey, it's not just me that was interested. There were several people in TV and media that said that this particular company's earnings call may have been the most important earnings call in the last several years, if not a decade or so. And that was folks at Nvidia, because of what Nvidia seems to represent in terms of how far and how fast and how big the future is when it comes to generative AI. I saw somebody mention them as being like the company that is providing the picks and shovels in terms of like that gold rush kind of theme for the whole AI movement. So all eyes, including mine, were on that last night. Their earnings came in, and I'm going to use a little bit of my as I lead into the digging into scripts. Their earnings were killer, and this little chart here just the data center, which is the AI GPUs are just built upon all their stuff. Just look at this. All right, this is they just announced the Q4 23, 18.4 billion just in the quarter. But that's not the story. Well, that's part of the story. Yeah, that's a really good story, actually. But the other part is, if you just go back a year, it was only 36 or 3.6 billion. So year over year, 3.6 to 18 billion. That's just insane. And this company has been around since, I believe, 93 or something like that.
Yeah.
And most people, I think, still maybe think of them in terms of, GPU for their gaming systems.
Going to be buying one soon.
But the funny thing about it is those same GPUs apparently were good for computing for AI and machine learning and all that kind of stuff.
And apparently for crypto too.
So who would have thought? So there's, the CPU folks, and then there was the GPU folks. Intel is probably more well known for the CPUs. It has nothing to do with what's going on with the AI stuff here. It's the GPUs, and this is what's going on, and this is why. And let me just take a look. Let me see if I could do this. I think I'm going to do a real-time look to see. Oh man, my iPad went down for a second. I'm hopefully going to be able to bring up this slide. If my iPad, I hate when it goes, this mix effect thing is killing me. All right. This is the real time.
Yeah, it's kind of small.
You can't see that?
I can, because you got the data center up.
Oh, let me do this.
Yeah.
Let me
Take that off. Take me off if you can. Go to Seoul.
Oh, well, yeah. Let me do that.
Don't do what I did. There you go.
No. So this is the real time number. Now, last night this sucker closed at 674. It closed at 674 last night, and it was down like 20 points because people were nervous about what's going to happen if they don't hit the number or if it doesn't excite people enough. Well, as you can see, it's up 107 points, 15, almost 16% at the current time, and they're getting ready to hit like 2 trillion in market cap if things keep going the way they are.
Why is their valuation listed as an F?
Because people look at their actual, like the financials, and they look at stuff like PE ratios, and so all their technical analysis, this doesn't make any damn sense to them.
Yeah, well,
but as you can see, growth and momentum. I don't know why momentum isn't an A+ here, but I haven't seen much momentum like this before. But anyway, what we're seeing is people are saying if these guys are killing it and they are the pick and shovel for, I guess I could bring myself and both of us back in here. If they're the pick and shovel for generative AI and they're killing it like they are, that's a strong indicator that this is not just hype. The people are, and you remember last week or 2 weeks ago when we were at the Zoho Day event, do you remember when Schroeder said that they have an order in for Nvidia that they haven't been able to get because the demand is just killer? That was a little sign, and I was like, wow, they aren't able to get it. And then when you see the numbers, it's just staggering what's going on and what that might mean. And I'm going to piggyback that onto if I can find it. Do I have it? I might not have it, but there was a quote from the CEO of SAP, Christian. What's his last name? Schneider? Klein. Christian Klein. He basically said, this is the biggest thing. This generative AI stuff is the biggest thing since the cloud. I mean, you think about all that's taken place. Even the cloud the mobile has taken place since that. And he said, hey, this is the biggest thing. And when you see what Nvidia just put out, and you marry it, and all the other thoughts that all the other tech CEOs are saying about this, yeah, this seems to be just the launching pad for what's about to happen.
And it's hard not to agree with it. I'm never going to speculate. Is this bigger than the cloud? Is this bigger than mobile or any of that? That's stupid speculation, to be honest. Who cares? Who cares? It's what kind of impact it ultimately has. It has, right? And but the one thing that's becoming clearer and clearer and clearer is it's starting to seep into everyday life. And once that happens, it's ubiquitous, and it will be. You're talking about fundamental transformation of how people work and play and live. It'll be just different. And, people will worry about it. There'll be, Terminator references and things like that. But ultimately, human beings will figure out how to use it appropriately and with the guardrails it needs to make it valuable and useful. And civilization will continue on. And it's exciting. And again, it's a little thing for me. It's just a little thing, but it's not really little to me in terms of what it implies. I mentioned this on the happy hour yesterday too, which is Microsoft absolutely inculcating it into Windows 11. I mean, think about how many Windows 11 users there are, right? There's a lot. I don't know the number, but it's quite a bit. And I hope that's not Stump the Godfather, how many Windows 11 users there are.
Nope.
Good. And every one of them has access to Microsoft Copilot, free edition, of course, but it's pretty substantial. I mean, I use it routinely now rather than Google search. I use it to help me find things in a different way altogether. And it's routine. That's the key here. It's routine. And the more routine these things become, the more companies like Nvidia and Microsoft and all these other companies who are just all in on it are going to flourish and prosper. And the more that's going to then provide some impetus to other companies, and the more human beings will just start using it in their everyday life. And ultimately, it's how it impacts that everyday life that matters more than any other possible reference point.
I'll just say this: a lot of people are, and rightfully so, are saying, "Oh, this is happening too fast. This looks like Cisco all over again." And the only thing I'll say to that is Cisco was about, laying the pipeline. This is not about the pipeline. This is about what you just said, everyday use.
Yeah.
And a myriad of different uses. And we're just getting started with it. And I think that's the big difference. I don't, of course, it's going to pull back every now and again, of course, but I don't think it's going to collapse anytime soon. So
I don't either.
But you know what? I also think this isn't going to collapse.
And now it's time.
Doesn't mean I won't
Stump
collapse.
the Godfather with the venerable Paul Greenberg. Brought to you by Microsoft Dynamics 365 Copilot.
Got to get a little Benny in there. I love getting a little Benny in there.
I'm perfectly happy if you just want to play the music and nothing else.
Nah, that would
do nothing else. That would be fine.
That would
be perfectly happy.
Now, but I do have a kind of an Nvidia AI in kind of Stump the Godfather. I actually have two. You could either choose number one or number two. I'm not going to tell you any hints. Just take a pick, one or two.
What you saying? Both are Nvidia-ish?
Yep.
Oh, okay. Two.
Oh, okay. Two. All right. We got to move down to all right. So here is this week's Stump the Godfather question, brought to you by Microsoft Dynamics 365 Copilot. Why do I start talking with my golf like I'm on the 18th green or something? Anyway, here it is. Nvidia Hopper GPU has 35,000 parts to it. That's like, I don't even understand what that means. There's a lot of parts. How much does it weigh? Now, everybody thinks about, microchips and all that. How much does this 35,000 part piece weigh?
I wish I knew what it actually physically looked like. Because if you've ever seen an Nvidia like 4090 card, GPU, which is a top of the line gaming card right now, It probably weighs 4 pounds.
Okay.
Okay. Might be a little less, but it's heavy.
Okay.
Let's say that it's very heavy. I don't even know what a Hopper GPU is.
Their AI. It's
No, I assume that, but I mean, I
Okay.
don't know how it fits in something or looks like or anything. I'll let others do their guess. I'll make a guess afterwards.
Well, there doesn't appear to be a whole lot of others, but if our guest in the green, our non-guest, he's not a guest.
That's right.
In the green room, if he wants to take a shot at it, put it in the put it out there. You already see he's already sent in, which is really interesting. He's asking us questions. The whole idea is for him to come on and answer our questions. But so let us know. Take a guess, sir. And see what you got. And no checking with Chat GPT or no looking at Google or anything else. Just take a shot.
And
Somebody out there, anybody out there, take a shot. Wow. Larry is putting a paragraph out there, but I don't see a guess. Ultimately, AI needs to solve fundamental business problems and do so for an economical investment with a solid ROI. If you can solve a problem using AI, but it costs 5x other methods, is it still the best business decision? That said, we truly are at a major inflection point. That's all nice, Larry. Take a damn guess. Let me know.
How much does it weigh?
How much does it weigh, Larry? Somebody else. Please, I'm begging you guys, take a guess. Anyway, we'll give them like a couple more seconds.
Okay.
And then you will take a guess. And I'm surprised that our guest in the green room is deciding to take a pass on this one. Huh. Interesting. I'm gonna have to ask him about that. Anyway, so the Venerable Paul Greenberg, what is your guess?
Well, I'm assuming
Larry came through with a guess. There's 20 pounds. That's a hefty card. Yeah.
You're not kidding. I'd like to see what machine that goes into. What I'm assuming is that it's ridiculously low because not that ridiculously ridiculously low. Because why put it in if it's like 80 pounds? That's the 35,000 parts, 80 pounds. So what? So I have to assume it's ridiculously low. Like, on that little microchip that weighs an 1/18 of an ounce is 20 trillion, whatever that is. Right. So I'm guessing 3.25 pounds. It's less than even the 4090 GPU.
3.25. Okay. Why don't you just go like 3.14?
Because we're doing prices right stuff.
You could do it. You could be pi.
We're doing prices right.
Okay. Well, right. You're safely between Brian at less than 10 ounces and Larry that's at 20 pounds. So
but if I'm not within a pound, then or less, I'm just not right.
Are we adding new rules to the game here? I mean, okay.
Well, I mean,
all right, Larry is. See, you gave Larry time to now he's going from 20 pounds to 1.5. So,
Larry, think of this. I'm only operating off of logic here, right? Like, why put on something unless it's exceptionally small or exceptionally huge? But if it's exceptionally huge, it's not even that interesting. It's ridiculous. So it should be now that may be overthinking, but
you think?
But but if it's like 15, 20 pounds, I would go 35,000 parts. So what?
Okay, so
microchips weigh nothing, and they have 1 trillion parts.
So your final guess is
3.25 pounds.
Our guests in the green room, you don't want to put out come on, man. Let's see, Brian Summer
weighs heavily on my mind.
All right,
Brian.
So we've got Brian at less than 10 ounces. We've got Larry now at 1.5 pounds. We've got the Venerable Paul Greenberg at 3.25 pounds. The answer to the question, how heavy is the Nvidia Hopper GPU, which has 35,000 parts, by the way, is 70 pounds.
So what? Big deal. That makes it uninteresting now.
Why is it so uninteresting? This is the heart of the what runs all these AI generative AI stuff. It's the chassis that runs it all. 1,200 grams. Look, this is an American-based show there. Larry.
Alexa, how many pounds is 1,200 grams?
It ain't 70.
200 grams is about 2 pounds 10 ounces.
2 pounds 10 ounces.
You're slightly closer than your guess there. All right.
Yeah, but it's like, the thing that makes these units super cool is how many parts you get on something that barely weighs anything, not something that you can't lift.
Yeah,
right,
but
without a crane.
This question had nothing to do with whether it's cool or not. No, it's just a guess. It's a guess.
So that means, let's see, 70 pounds.
Well, you
I'm
were the
trying-
closest to it, so you actually, yeah,
No,
Larry, you
too
should have
far
stuck
away.
with your 20. You would have won it if you were stuck with your 20. But the answer is 70 pounds. That's
So my
what-
answer to this, and
and this has been brought to you by Microsoft Dynamics 365 Copilot,
That's a so what answer.
which all this AI stuff is run on this 70-pound chip. Anyway, just thought I'd say that. Yeah, Alan, you're a little late. You did. I don't know where you said 18, but it wasn't here. So there it is. All right. Now, all this is the big build up to our guest because we got into
He
all
weighs
this-
70 pounds.
Yeah, he does. Larry, you win the satisfaction of being the closest, or I was going to say the closest one, or the best loser because you were still like,
Yeah,
well,
nobody. It's too far away for anybody to have won that one.
that almost the size of my German Shepherd or Pit Bull.
There you go.
There it is. All right. Anyway, now I turn things over to the venerable Paul Greenberg.
But this is Anand Thaker, man. Just bring him on, man. He's, we
people come on this show for this moment. You're not going to give them something?
I think the guy is brilliant. I think the guy is the nicest guy probably in the entire world.
Wow.
Right? I think he doesn't think anything but kind thoughts about people. And even when he doesn't think kind thoughts, potentially, he finds the good in people all the time. He done extremely well thinking through what's the current greatest thing and the next greatest thing. And when I say greatest thing, I mean things that have use value, not just things that are super cool, like, for 1 year, like Groupon coupons or something. Anand Thaker, man, he's a play in residence. He's the reason why he's part of our team. He is a person who gives me and Brent advice that we actually listen to, as opposed to don't hear and don't listen to, which is another way we do it. Right. So
we do that with a lot of people, by the way.
Yeah.
We do not listen to a lot of
we did well, a lot of people don't even try to give us advice. Right.
So don't listen to us. So
and I'm too old to take that much advice at this point. So, but on Anand's part, and Anand's what? 30 some odd years my junior, but I still listen to the guy, right? So let's just bring him on. I mean,
I want to bring him on, but here's my stipulation. I'm gonna ask him the first question. All right, so here he is, the golden smog of CRM, the Midas of Martech, GTM advisor, Anand Thaker.
It's great to be back. It's like you have more shows every time I'm actually back here.
Another 3 or 4 coming.
All right, so here's my first question. It comes from Anand Thaker. He says AI is at a tipping point.
Me too.
What do you feel that statement means to you? So what does that statement mean to you?
I've been giving that some thought, to be honest. I mean, on one hand, Brent, you and I are thinking about tipping point as in when's the stock price going to go back down for Nvidia, or does it mean it's about to accelerate? So that's one perspective, certainly, when you think about tipping point, but we're also talking about, how are people leveraging, hey, Rebecca.
She doesn't say hi to me. She doesn't say hi to Paul. She says hi to Anand. And I bet that was Patrick saying hi, but I digress. Continue.
I did send treats.
There you
so. But one of the other aspect, and I think we've all been talking about this and revolving around this, is how much has this been very democratized into other people's hands? And if the assumption is that if this AI capability is in people's hands, this would create some new momentum, a new tipping point, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I think that's what they're talking about. But honestly, it's hard to say, because there are people who use generative AI, but there are so many different AIs that are being developed for different purposes. As a matter of fact, Nvidia is very popularized for using Gen AI, and that's where all the 70-pound chips. It's giving me like nostalgia for back in the day when I've actually worked on Cray supercomputers, believe it or not. Probably the youngest guy. And the only reason I got to work on it because I had small fingers, so I can get in there and do some maintenance work at the time. So I was
You could run for
volunteered
president.
But we're talking about what are we talking about? We're talking about how people are able to improve their capabilities and productivity as a result of a lot of this AI, right? I've always, certainly a lot of people have talked about.
Can you
Hopefully
can
you can
you
hear me a
up
little
your
better.
volume, by the way? Yeah, I
Yeah,
just wanted
yeah.
to,
Let's see what we can do
because
here. How about
Patrick
that?
wants
How
to
does
make
that sound?
sure.
Are we,
Yeah,
we getting a little better
Patrick.
here?
Yeah, that sounds good. Patrick
Oh,
wants
that's
to
good.
make
That's good.
sure.
Okay. You know, I've been
yeah.
playing with this setup for a while, so I guess I get
Yeah.
my chance to, talk about the what's going on. So, what I was saying is that, I've never been, this is my third wave of AI or some version of that, and never prescribed to the fact that AI is always out there to take over people's jobs. But the power in AI is how much productivity we're going to be seeing from other people and leveraging that, right? So I always have that saying, as you know, right? The technology only magnifies the people behind them. And if if the people behind them don't understand what they're trying to do or what their goals are or how to even evaluate what they're doing is right or not, then it doesn't matter what the tool is. And same goes for AI. If not, it's even more magnified. So I think of tipping point, if I were to make that statement, it's to say that the way that organizations are operating together are changing, right? Because of AI, the way that people are getting skilled, whether it's through formal traditional means like going to school and whatnot, or being able to reskill themselves in the vast amount of resources that are out there, and then being able to apply that and transforming their lives into a new direction or a new level. Those are things that I think are a tipping point. I think having Nvidia chips, or AMD chips in every organization and someone tinkering with them, that's not enough, right? There has to be a good utilization of that capability. And I hate to be cliche, but we're still in the early innings or the first quarter or whatever,
In its infancy. In its infancy.
Yeah, that's right. That's
By
right.
the way, Patrick is a little late in answering the Stump the
Yeah, for some
Godfather.
reason the comments are coming up late, I think.
Oh,
Is
no.
that what's going on?
I think so, because Alan's came up. He did say 18 came up just now. Take a look.
Yeah, well, I saw
There it
that
is, yeah.
before. He said,
No, Alan said I said 18, but
Oh,
this is not a
so
comment that he said earlier.
Interesting. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
weird. Well, you were still well off, Alan. So
Either way, you were all
Oh,
wrong.
so-
Patrick was right.
So the reason I didn't answer that other question, since we're talking about the question, the Stump the Godfather question, is that I've seen and I've tried to lift a H100 server, which is like one of their main one of their main deliverables to a lot of the companies. So if you hear about different tankers that have a bunch of server farms of AI chips sitting on them, that's the kind of thing. And I think there's one called Tokyo One, which is the new version of a supercomputer that has racks of these, kind of interconnected and whatnot. Those are, I mean, not only could I not move it, I mean, lift it, I couldn't even push it around or anything. It wasn't nailed down or anything. And they, while they weren't looking, I tried to, see what I could do with it. So I don't know what the poundage is that. I mean, it's got to be at least 200 pounds because I know I can push more than 180. So it's incredible. Like, we are seeing a great deal of weight. the gravity of things is playing a role. If I could use some wordplay there, but anyway. But to answer your question about the tipping point, that's how I see it, and maybe that's how they see it. But we've seen technology come and go, right? And how much of it truly gets utilized, truly becomes permeated. I think that story is still yet to be written. We're not there.
So, I mean, actually going to the point that right now it takes, let's say, a 70-pound chip to do something effective with AI on some scale. The revolution in mobile was because we could put in effectively an old mainframe on this, right? Meaning we could literally put it in our pocket. Whoops. So what?
And drop it too.
No, what happens every time I do that? My monitor decides to go off, right? So, but what happened with AI right now? We talked in the happy hour briefly yesterday about a device called Rabbit, right, which uses and has embedded engine called, Persistent, built into it, which is an AI driven search engine basically, but it also can take actions, and and the device is again handheld, right? Meaning, so my question though is, okay, if AI right now, to your point, is being driven by 70-pound microchips, right? So it's being driven by 70-pound GPUs. For it to be popularly accepted, is it something that needs something, let's say, I'll call it hardware miniaturization, or can it do without it and still be effectively mass implemented and utilized?
Yeah, if since we're talking about crazy supercomputers and back in the day of things
Right.
being super heavy, I mean, how did people share that resource back in the day? Do you remember? Or do you
The
remember,
time
do you
slices or
remember
something?
I mean, do you remember what they used to use? They used to use terminals. You had to take turns, right?
Yeah.
Everybody had maybe a few cycles. That was something along the lines. If you were, the grad students had to be up at 2 a.m. to be even use the university one, right?
Yep.
Or you
I
were a
remember
low
that.
person on the totem pole at a big company making those things happen. Today, we're able to use the capabilities of that hardware and distribute them in a variety of ways. So there's a lot of people who can use those. And the reason for I can't tell you specifically about what the heftiness comes from, but I'm sure it's a lot of layers and a lot of cooling mechanisms that allow that to be the case. But in any rate, I mean, it's not necessarily the weight and the bulkiness of what we've been accustomed to in terms of miniaturization. It's actually how can we create a distribution of those capabilities to a great number of people, and
Right.
as long as that continues to be available, that's certainly one form of it. And I think, Paul, what you're talking about too is a little more over the horizon, which is where you start miniaturizing AIs for very specific purposes,
Yeah.
or particular purposes, right? If you want it for everything from weaponization to healthcare, we're talking about like tricorders to, terminators to, if I could be, a little cynical about all this, but, or transportation capabilities, or, safety, or, I mean, there's a lot of reasons smaller pieces of AI that have very specific purposes are, sort of the narrow AIs, right? They can be built into chips, and, there's
Right.
ways that they can be distributed in that way as well. So we're not going to see just one. We're going to see multitudes of versions of hardware that's going on today. But I think the most popular one right now is, because of Gen AI and many others that are relevant or adjacent to that, we want to have it in as many consumer or business hands as possible to create, stories, or, answer questions, or create new pictures, or now, even movie clips, or, video clips at this particular stage with Sora. So we'll see multidimensional efforts going on with regards to how this hardware gets deployed.
I want to go in a bit of a different direction, because yesterday, during the happy hour, when I wasn't distracted with all this stuff, other stuff going on.
You going to 120-pound chips now?
No, I was thinking about this conversation I had recently with Shardul Vikram over at SAP about, they kind of represent a lot of these big companies. I call them the tech titans, and how they're restructuring, and I think one of the terms you used yesterday, Anna, was reskilling, but they put prompt engineering kind of at the center of their AI strategy. And he was saying, because of the importance of prompt engineering, they're getting their data scientists, they're basically retraining and reskilling their data scientists to really fully embrace and optimize the art or the science of prompt engineering. And that kind of reminded me of what you were talking about yesterday with some of the, the importance of AI reskilling, and making sure this is like a huge opportunity because of the dramatic changes it's making in everything. That there's a potential for, once again, certain folks to be left out of this process, and the opportunity to train people to be able to be a part of this is incredibly important. And you were talking about you want to kind of talk to that and kind of look at that as part of this whole thing. Everybody gets excited about the chips and the money, but it's people still play a role in this, and there's an opportunity to get some people who weren't really fully engaged in the previous tech drivers.
Mhm.
There's an opportunity to do that here. Maybe you could talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, no, I think one of the things that we've done a great job of is we have a number of means to learn, right? More than ever before. Now, sadly, not everybody takes advantage of that as a result of that, but there are courses everywhere. People are offering different kinds of examples and templates, and now even you have data samples, which is always one of the hardest things about doing any kind of data modeling or algorithmic building or AI building has been trying to find data to test on and be able to build and train your models and train your AIs as a result of it. So I wanted to talk about two things. One is the definition of upskilling and reskilling. So upskilling is doing your job better, with this. And I think a part of what he was talking about the other day was upskilling. That's part
Yep.
of it. I mean, I know he's talking about both dimensions here.
Yep.
And, with related to upskilling is what we were talking about earlier, right? How can we be more productive in the work we do? If you're doing video production work, how do how do you slice and dice your clips the way you need to? Maybe you're doing, creating emails, or you're doing a lot of communication work. I can use that as a template to start things, from the typical chat GPT, perspective. But then there's reskilling, which is, I've always had a, profound interest and somewhat of a mission of making sure that people have education and are always constantly learning as part of their, part of who they are. That's a virtue of themselves, but they have to have something interesting, something that they can feel like they can express themselves or be able to create an impact in the world. And so the idea of reskilling is not only just being able to teach someone about AI, but it's an opportunity to be able to teach people, as Paul was talking about earlier, teach people about AI the right way, right? We talk about the idealism of what, how AI can improve the human race and society, but, until you start foundationally about, what AI can and can't do, what its flaws are, what to look out for, and how to incorporate, building AI in a way, or training AI in a way that would be fair and just and equal, and certainly take into consideration different groups and different situations, and constantly know that there's discipline to monitoring that. That's what you want to be able to work on. And so before AI, it was, there was other things like programming and, being able to understand the skills of, developing software and other things like that. So I want to make sure people understand there's upskilling and then there's reskilling. So you're switching jobs with reskilling. And I'd love to see more people who are not necessarily always have the opportunity, or maybe in types of roles that have little opportunity for advancement or ability for them to live better lives, not to be able to, have access to, work on AI or build AI capabilities and skills as a result of it. So prompt engineering is like one of the basic first things you can do in order to interact with AI, understand how it works, and even tweak it, without knowing a lot of programming, which is fantastic. And I think it's a nice way of introducing everyone to the capabilities of AI. Just like, when search engines were so powerful to harness the information from the internet, we wanted to see, there were search engineers, right, who were designated at a company and different organizations to teach people how to use the search engine to find and forage for the information they were looking for. And so I think we're seeing a lot of the same thing again. Hopefully we start to be better about dispersing and providing that to a lot of people outside of just corporate organizations.
Well, to your point, there's sort of there's probably more, but at least two obvious aspects to the right way on this. One is let's call it the technical right way,
Mm-hmm.
which I think they're already starting to address with RAG and everything else they're doing, and trust layers, like Salesforce has, and so on. And then there's the ethical, moral right way too, right? Which is, not disadvantaging other human beings by your use of it. And I don't think what really there yet. I think a lot of people talk about it, but let's say that, it's interesting. The question becomes, I guess, is there an international forum that's going to be the foundation for standards that are being set for AI? Same way we had them with, what was it, WC3 and the internet so many years ago, right? And almost every time we hit some sort of big, globally impacting initiative of, especially in the technology world, there comes a group for standards. Now, on the other hand, I'm trying to remember what it was, but there was one that failed miserably, right? Because there were about 20 different, I'm literally blocking what it is, but I remember the process because there were like 5 different groups competing to be the standard, and they couldn't get themselves together to work together, and ultimately no standard emerged. There are standards for, there's a standard even for, well, I remember years ago, Oracle, IBM, Microsoft, and there were a couple of other organizations, I don't remember who they were building standards for, like, you'd sit in front of a computer, you would it was kind of driven by they would register basically your brain waves based on what you were seeing and so on and so forth. And they realized, well, we need standards before that thing becomes dangerous and intrusive. And they actually built standards that were to this day being adhered to, which you don't hear as much about. But, AI, obviously, let's say this, it's one that seems prone to necessity for a standard, but I wonder how it's going to actually happen. I don't know. I couldn't even, I have no thought. I don't see the process occurring in a way that is more moral and ethical and less competitive.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think we tend to do these things when some sort of catastrophe happens, right? Or something that becomes a huge warning sign for us. And hopefully we don't wait for that, but it's just human nature, right? Hopefully it's just not as bad as it could be. And such a consortium, of organizations or countries or, a collective of collective of, people and whatnot really do sort that out. I think that would be awesome as a result of it. But, I think one of the things we talked about in the happy hour was like the Salesforce moment, right? And one of the
I was going to ask about that.
They break out. And, one of the things that I always thought about was one of the reasons they were really successful in that particular moment, partly was timing, right? We had a different business model. They adapted to that very quickly, but it was also a lot of the people that became users were native into the cloud. And so if we have a new generation of people who are leveraging AI on a daily basis, if my son's using ChatGPT or he's using AI to help do some of the work he's doing, or even just engaged in communication. I mean, it doesn't have to be schoolwork related, but if he's doing that already, then it's very possible that will be the generation that will be able to set up standards and whatnot. I don't think all of us necessarily would be the right folks because we just don't grow up with that. It's something new to us, but it's native to them, and I think that is something that is that'll be a transformative moment when some of that happens. Not to say that we shouldn't attempt it or try it or work on it or at least lay the foundations of it and make several attempts and failures until we get it right.
I mean, the only reason I have a little hesitance on that, even though I generally agree, it's usually the generation that grows up with it that ultimately makes the decisions on how it's going to be, things like that are going to be done, was WC3. None of us grew up with that.
That's true.
Right. And WC3 was baby boomers and Gen Xers for the most part,
right,
putting it together. Literally none of us grew up with the internet, right? So it started, and WC3, because it was actually very successful, came along early, right? So I mean, I don't know if that's a appropriate amount. What's the generation after Gen Z?
Actually, I don't remember. Is it?
There is one.
If somebody in the chat would love to bring it up. I
remember they went to something with the A alpha. I think
they went back
right.
to A. All right.
Now.
Yeah. I mean, by what you're saying, they were likely to be the one, right? Yeah, right. Well, the category 5 alpha.
Yeah, and I've thought about that too. I agree with you. Back then, the people who set up WC3, there weren't that many people who were on the internet and they were developing web standards. Today, everybody's almost using AI in some capacity or another. So the dynamics are incredibly different, which means you have to get a lot of people on board with that, right? And today we have a lot more people who are engaged in the process, whether they're formally a part of it or not. So it's a, I think it's going to have to be a larger group of people that are going to really want this. And unfortunately that comes with consequences and benefits as well as a result of it. But no, I hear what you're saying about that.
Yeah. By the way, Sven, the answer to that is generation nobody at all.
I don't know what, Finn. It's been like years since
I
we
know.
even thought about
Generation
this.
nobody at all. Right. So
Anyway, this has been a great conversation.
Yep.
Yeah, we'll want to do this. Let's see. It's after 4 o'clock. Let's see what we ended up with here. Bam, and then I go like this.
up $4.
It's just still going up.
So
wait,
it actually ended
no,
at
that's a year. Okay.
no,
I
it
thought that was
ended at
today.
no.
No,
The day's
today.
range is 742 to 785, and it ended at its high basically.
It's
And
incredible.
And
It
it
says it's
closed last night at 672 or thereabouts.
So it's up 110.55 for today.
Yeah, so it closed yesterday at 674, and it closed today at 785.
I wanted to point out this one thing. Look at the rating summary. And I mean, not everybody knows about, Seeking Alpha necessarily, but the quants, they use a lot of algorithmic, a lot of algorithms and even AI to, determine their next decision. And right now it's showing hold because it's based on not sentiment, but it's actually based on fundamentals. And we're obviously, the Wall Street is very much carrying the flag and the torch for continuing to, perpetuate this. So it's I think that differentiator for those who are interested in, kind of watching what happens with these kind of high end stocks. This didn't happen with the meme stocks, by the way. Wall Street was negative, quants were negative, and people were still buying, right? That's a little bit different from, an organization that makes some very substantial, very impactful, technologies or products or offerings. So, definitely keep it in mind if you're interested in that kind of thing.
I'll tell you, my problem is I'm going to be buying a 4090, and the prices are just going to keep going up. And I'm doing it just for gaming, but it's going to cost all this money you're making, Brent, it's going to cost me. Right.
Oh, check this out. Michael Klein, I hadn't even looked at this lately. So since Sora came back, wow, so that's really impacted Adobe. So I hadn't even looked at that. I know it was down pretty significantly yesterday, but I hadn't put one and one together, if that's due to the Sora announcement.
Yeah,
by the way, that
seems
Sora
an
stuff is
overreaction.
crazy.
Yeah, that
I
sounds like
know.
a knee-jerk reaction, quite frankly, because
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot still to be. We're on page one.
United
of Sora.
breaks guitars.
We're
Right.
on
that's-
page one of Sora, so
Right.
we'll see how that plays out.
All right.
It's
this
wonderful
has been
talking to you
great.
both as always, and
Yeah.
we'll have to get together and do this again.
Absolutely. And by the way, yes, Sven, you're right. It is the Rams generation. Anyway,
That's right.
on behalf of the Golden Smog, the Midas of Martech, Anand Thaker, I'm Brent Leary.
I'm Paul Greenberg.
We are the CRM Playaz. She is Minnie.
Oh, yes,
We
she
will
is.
See you next week.